We've all been through a bad breakup, and oftentimes we don't know the best ways and practices to cope with such a life-changing event. Because let's face it, breakups can be life-changing. Here now to discuss her book, Uncoupling: How to Survive and Thrive After Breakup and Divorce, is Sarah Davison. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Now, when a lot of people hear the term divorce coach, they might not understand exactly what that means. So can you give our viewers a little bit of an explanation?
Yeah, sure. So what I do is I help people to cope better with any kind of breakup, both the emotional roller coaster that we all go on, but also the practical challenges that people face as well, like becoming a single parent maybe, or dating again, things like that.
And what inspired you to write this book? I know that you probably have some of your own experience, but for you, what made you say, I want to share this with the world and I want to be able to help people through breakups, divorce?
Yeah, it's a great question. People often ask me, why do you do that? Well, I went through a really tough divorce. I didn't see it coming, and I found out my husband didn't love me, didn't want to be with me anymore, and I'd met somebody else who he was madly in love with. So for me, it hit me like a freight train. I didn't see it coming. Our son was 1. So I did a lot of that ugly crying on the bathroom floor. But at that point, I'd been a coach for about 15 years. So I knew I could change how I was feeling about it, but I didn't know how. So I looked for help, and I couldn't find anything specific to my situation. So I decided to combine my coaching experience with the breakup that I was thrown into. And these are the tools now that I share with everybody else, actually, all over the world. So it's great to take that pain and turn it into something that helps people.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that, too, taking your pain and turning it into something that can actually help others get through their pain. Now, how much of your own personal experience helped you to be able to become a coach and to be able to help people with this kind of advice?
Oh, all of it. I mean, you know, from as I said, the ugly crying to actually starting to feel better, and then testing and trying sort of a toolkit of different things to help me take my power back. And it's really interesting because breakups obviously are going to be tough, and everyone deals with them differently. It depends on how you cope with levels of stress anywhere in your life, and then also the impact of that particular breakup, whether it's, you know, you're going to have to move house, or you won't see the kids as much, maybe you're sharing that with somebody else. But the good news is it's a chance to redesign your life just the way you want it. You can take your power back, you can turn it into something positive, and you can get stronger from this as well. So trauma to triumph, I always talk about.
Trauma to triumph, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to your book specifically, obviously we don't want to give it all away, but can you give us some insight into some of the key factors that people will find in your book?
Yeah, it's full of really simple, easy to use tips and tools and techniques. One of my favorites that I'm probably best known for, that's helped lots of people all over the world, is when you're going through a breakup, your ex's name will have a lot of emotional intensity attached to it. So if you're using that name over and over again, it can trigger anxiety or stress. So what I always say is, don't use the full name. Just use the first initial, and we're not talking a capital, we're talking a teeny weeny first letter. Okay?
Lowercase.
Yeah. So whether you're talking or typing, or if you're going through a divorce process, maybe some of that correspondence with your attorney, then just keep it to that small letter, and you'll be surprised at how that dials down that emotional intensity for you.
And you also mentioned 5 stages in your book. What are they, and why are they so important when it comes to getting over breakups?
Yeah, it's a great question, because at the beginning, should I stay, should I go, or maybe how to cope in the early stages is very different to navigating whilst you're going through the divorce and then moving on. So again, we have tools and techniques for every different stage. So in the beginning, it's more about self-care and understanding that it's really normal to be upset and to cry and to be overwhelmed. But there are things you can do step by step to move through. And then moving forward, it's about looking at the future. So for most people, either the future looks like a blank canvas or even a black hole. So our job as a coach, my job is to throw as much colour on there as possible to start creating something people want to move towards, or shine a light into that black hole so people know where they're going.
And when it came to creating some of these tips and trying to figure out ways to help people cope with breakups, how did you find what really worked? Was it just through experience, or was it also going out there and asking other people?
Yeah, well, yeah, I asked a lot of people, but a lot of this is from my own personal experience. So when I was going through it, being a single mum overnight, I suddenly had to cope with that. My confidence was destroyed. I think a lot of people go through when you've been betrayed. Again, that impacts your self-confidence, your self-esteem. So I knew that there were tools from my coaching background. So again, it was just trying things and then tweaking them, and then over the years working out what works best for me, but then being able to tailor that for other people, because everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody is different, and that's that's a great point. When it comes to each individual, everyone's going to handle something different, especially when it comes to emotions, because all of our emotions are differently. So how did you create certain tools that everybody can use no matter what your circumstance?
Yeah, well, I believe that we all have the remote control to our brain, so we can actually choose how we feel. Now, I know a lot of people will be thinking, yeah, but someone's done something really horrible, I'm going to be upset. Yes, absolutely. But we can dial down the intensity of those emotions. So what I've created is a real toolkit of all the different things you go through. So whether that's heartbreak or conflict, self-esteem, and then we can dial down the intensity of the negative emotions so that you start to take your power back. So there's a lot of tools about shifting your focus, changing the words we use, using our body language to change how we feel. So lots of different tools stacked together, simple and easy, but it can really help you move forward pretty quickly.
And Sarah, what is some of the feedback that you have received from people who have read your book or taken some of your tips?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm quite vulnerable in my book. I talk a lot about my personal experience and my heartbreak. And I think at first I was finding that difficult, but actually when you hear the stories, it's just lovely to know that if people read my book, they're like, Sarah, it feels like you're there with me. This is exactly what I'm going through. And it's really helped people, which is the best thing about my job. It's very rewarding for me to help people. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing that you're able to help others, but how has this experience helped you in your own personal experience?
Oh, it's been a real journey. But actually being able to put on things, so I have like a Heartbreak to Happiness online support group. Actually, we've got a special for people going on Thanksgiving this week at 4 p.m. You can go online and get free help from one of my coaches who's accredited by me. I train people to become breakup and divorce coaches now. So now these people are going out there and helping other people as well. So my tools are really getting out there. It's been really great to be able to help everyone around the world cope better if they need that support.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what you are doing is incredible, and you're helping so many people out there. So thank you, Sarah, for joining us here on Live in the Bay. It was an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me.